going to dance. We're going to dance. We're going to dance and have some fun.
Dig.
The chills that you spill up my back keep me filled with satisfaction when we're done. Satisfaction of what's to come. I couldn't ask for another. No, I couldn't ask for another.
Oh, that's right.
Your groove, I do deeply dig. No walls, only the bridge. My supper dish, my crocketesh wish.
Sing it, baby.
I couldn't ask for another. No, I couldn't ask for another. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart.
That's the moment.
Groove is in the
Watch out.
The depth of who the groove moves us to. The dance hoop will go through to. One here's a who. I couldn't ask for another. No, I couldn't ask for another. DJ Stones was on a roll. I've been told he can't be sold. He's not vicious or malicious, just lovely and delicious. I couldn't ask for another.
Something lurks in this torso. Heart got a deal you wanna know. Delightful, truly delightful. Making it, doing it, especially at a show. Feeling kinda high like a Hendrix haze. Music makes motion moves like a maze. All inside of me, heart especially. No other rhythm where I wanna be. Come on, flowing, glowing with electric eyes. You dip to the dive, baby, you'll realize. Baby, you'll see the funk inside of me. Baby, you'll see that rhythm is the key. Get witty, can't think, quit it. Stomp on the street when I hear funk blue. Playing pop pipe, follow her to shoot. Baby, just sing about the groove.
Sing it.
The groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the
Blow them horns along.
Groove is in the heart.
Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the heart. Groove is in the
Wait,
Hold on one
say that
second.
again.
Oops, hold on.
Yeah.
Got it. This goddamn.
Hey, is it on my end? Like I don't
I
know.
don't think so. So like my computer. Let me put you up here. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi guys. Hi.
Hello.
You know what? Whenever I try, it wants me to update the latest, and so I go to, and it just keeps saying update. So it's like it malfunctions, and then whenever I try to click on it on my phone, it says invalid, and I'm like,
Oh,
anyway, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
don't be sorry. It's Mercury is in retrograde. Like this is what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, but it's my life. My life is in retrograde. You poor guys. Anyway, how are you two?
So good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good.
so good. I mean, so good now
Yeah.
to see
Cool.
both of you because I haven't talked to Jermaine in like a week or so.
Oh.
And we haven't talked in a little while. And I heard your voice the other day and I was like, just like, I was like, and that's why I was like, what are you doing on Thursday?
I know. I was so happy. I'm like, oh my God, nothing.
Yeah. Me too.
Nothing at all.
I'm so happy to get to talk to you again, Ryan.
Oh, I'm
Good to
glad.
see
I'm
you.
so glad to talk to you too. It's good to see you too. How have you been? How's your energy doing from the last time we spoke?
Oh.
Yeah.
I think in certain places it's been better. I
Good.
think I'm not too familiar with the whole Mercury and retrograde, but like my sister Tania kind of warned me about it, that it's a communication thing.
Yep.
And I guess we were in the shadow of it before it started, and that's when I realized I had a lot of communication issues. So my energy last week was just as bad as last time we talked, but thanks to a major, what is it, like a home, I don't want to say the name of the store, but I had but it rhymes with Doles.
Yep.
And I had a huge issue with them, and it just started my week off last week a little rough, but I am good today. Mainly, like Jen said, because I get to see the both of you. Like like it was I was rushing around this morning. My schedule got thrown off, but I was like, I'm making this, even though I'm going to be about 10 minutes late. But
well, good thing you were, because it was a shit thing. I mean, just I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what is going on?
Right.
Well, before I spoke with both of you, I also won't say the name. It's a phone company and it rhymes with BB and B. They are the devil. And so like I was dealing with that and I'm like, I don't want to go into seeing you two with that energy. So like before what happened on the computer, I was like breathing, but not very good. I was like, you know what I mean? Like just trying to I'm like, I want to enjoy this. I need this today, So anyway, I feel better seeing both of you. It's like all melts away now.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I want to start crying right now because it's like same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't had to deal with a big corporate entity though. Like hiding.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm just like, I'm so excited. I'm like, everyone's talking about a lot of things that they're running into and like issues and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to deal with any of those things because I'm just going to hide. Like, can't get me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Finds you. Yeah. Finds you anyway.
Yep. It does find you. It's just like this. Like I even asked my guides, I said, please make this work. Like, and they didn't. So we'll talk about that later. See what I'm doing wrong with my.
I wonder, like, sometimes I feel like we need sessions for our guides, like couples therapy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Wouldn't that would be really great. What do you guys think?
It's funny because I just see this like, oh,
I always get this like, if that's what you think is going to help.
It's funny because sometimes I'll ask them something and I'll hear a response, and then for whatever reason it was incorrect, or I'll hear another one and I'll be like, well, why did I hear that? And they're like, you heard us wrong. And I'm like, oh, like, duh, like, so it's like you're just sort of like, or they'll say, misunderstanding, miscommunication. And I'm like, I was thinking it was going to be something deep. And it's like, you didn't hear us right, Ryan. So what do you want us to do about it?
Oh my God. Jerks. I mean, love you guys.
Love you. So simple sometimes, but
I know.
It's funny because it's funny with the retrograde thing. I don't really understand it fully.
Me neither.
And I make jokes about it and how it's ruining my life that week. And my husband, I'll sort of say, well, the electronics aren't working because Mercury's in retrograde, and he calls it Mercury's in Gatorade. Like, is that Gatorade thing going on? I'm like, all the time.
Love it. I'm going to use that now.
But
my
it's like
God.
it creates like for me the last week I feel like I was easily angered.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like easily hot tempered, you know,
Yeah.
and then I could bring it down, but it's funny because I didn't know that that was retrograding. It's not until someone says something on Instagram and then I'm like, oh, you know, that's why I was being the way I was being, you know,
Yeah.
but
Well, I had no clue there was a shadow before it. When Tania, my sister, mentioned it, I was like, "Well, that's fucking great. I'm having a horrible time right now, and this is just a shadow of it."
yes.
Like, but luckily, it's been all right. Like I've, her advice was to not like, and I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but to not make any major decisions for the next
Yep.
month. Don't sign any contracts because there's going to be an issue in everything.
Yep.
And I told my other sister about it, and she's like, "Well, I wanted to travel. Like, what do I do? Like, do I just not do anything?" I was like, "I don't know." Asked me. I mean, I guess we still have to live, but yeah, I'm definitely paying more attention to like the communication. Like, it's keeping me calmer because yes, last week was very much just every little thing, just heated, got me so heated, especially
Yes.
with this Dole's issue. Which
Doles.
it wasn't even for me. It was for a family member, and I just had one simple question: are you going to take it up into the apartment? And a 20-minute call where their system transferred me to 10 different people, and a manager that said I don't have time to help them.
Oh.
And luckily, I got his name. I'm not gonna. I'm so tempted to say it, but I've already complained. But anyway, not enough about me. But the week got
It's
easier.
never enough.
No, it's not. Give us more. We'll be each other's therapists.
No,
you know?
Exactly.
That's the whole point of the podcast.
That's right.
Oh, and
It's so
crazy.
good too. I want to compliment both of you. Like,
Oh.
I love listening to them. You're doing such a
Thank
good
you.
job. Yeah. Yep. I just love it.
Thank you so much. Like, it blows my mind that you listen, that anybody listens.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, people hear it sometimes.
Yeah. I usually listen when I'm putting on makeup or stuff like that. Like, that's my time to sort of zone out, and I love it.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is that's really exciting for me to hear, because I'm like, I don't know if anybody's listening.
Yeah. And I have people that I know in my life, or like even I have a new hairdresser, and I told her about this, and she's been listening. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
People listening. Yeah.
Oh my God. There's so much love.
Yeah.
To receive.
That's right.
Work on receiving. I know. I definitely noticed a lot of anger as well. And I think anger has always been an issue for me. So I'm like, I get angry at myself for being angry. So I'm like, why are you like getting angry? Because like you should be over this already.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
Yeah.
I hope the older I get, the more I get upset at myself, because I think I should have better control of my emotions. And I think I do, like, generally as a person, maybe I do from when I was younger, but I don't know if it's because I mentor people, or once you're receiving information, you just think you're supposed to be better. I don't think that of anyone else, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very understanding to them. I'm like, you're human, it's okay. But for me, I'm like, I'm supposed to be better. And I do get mad at myself when I can go, I'm not generally an angry person, but I can go from 0 to 100 fast, and then back down to 0. Like, that's what bothers me sometimes with, you can read things about different zodiac behaviors, and they always I'm a Pisces, and they make Pisces seem like big crybabies. And I found that to not be true.
Yeah.
We're usually pretty hot tempered, but then we literally are over it a second later.
Yeah.
But that's what happened with me. I tend to get hot fast. You can ask my husband. He said it's like a gun. It's like bam, bam. And you're like, what happened? Oh my God.
I feel like that's a skill. I like that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I'm going to tell him that next time. Like this was a skill. This whole thing that happened, like
very direct and focused. You don't want it all over the place, right? You want
No.
it boom. You want it
Yes.
like an arrow.
Yeah.
fast and over with. Didn't even know it happened. Yeah.
I wish, like, I can go from 0 to 100 super quick, but then I go back down to 50, and then I kind of just simmer there. I have to push myself back down,
Yeah.
and my face is hot, and it's like, okay, just chill out. So it takes me at least 20 minutes. But luckily, I don't think, I mean, and maybe Jen, I don't think you can really see it. Like once I go off about something and then I'm at 50, I don't think you can really see it. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Only those closest to me, who I love the most, get to experience my deepest, darkest rage.
Yep. I save it for just those I love. Like, no one else would really know. That's why the other day when I was talking to that major phone company for the first time, or really the first time this year is what I should say. My husband said Ryan used her deep voice, and that usually means she's really pissed off. And when he says it, no one else has ever heard my deep voice. They hear this little like, and I can't force it though. I have to be really pissed off, and then he'll mock me and he'll say all this, and I'm like, you better. Like he does this like really exaggerated version of my deep voice. But only he usually hears that.
Why do we do it just made me think of, I used to assume that my children only listened to my husband because he had a lower voice and it was like more like commanding.
Yeah.
So when I would get angry with them, I'd be like, God damn it, you guys. Go pick up your laundry, and I would say it in a deeper voice. And I was like half joking because sometimes it actually worked. They were like, oh, deep voice, authority.
Like she's serious now, Well, so my sister has 3 kids and they're amazing, but they're kids, and she'll call me and she'll give them many warnings, as you do, right? And then she'll just get full crazy. And then they look at her like she's nuts. And she'll say, you don't hear me until I totally lose my shit.
I am so relieved to hear someone else say that.
Yep. And she's right though. They don't, with the dad, I think you're right. It's like he's not there, he works, so they're with, I feel like they never respect the parent they're with the most. Mm-hmm. They respect the one that kind of comes home at night,
the one they see less.
Yes, absolutely. So he doesn't have to really do much, but my sister can get crazy. I can too. Like you gotta sometimes pull out the crazy and just hear everybody.
I think for a long time I fought that label of like the crazy mom because I had one, and then I was like not fighting it anymore. And it was the same thing. It's like you drive me to this point. Like I have to, like, unless I'm screaming, and that's why we've called it Dragon Mom, because I'm like, guys, get us. And then I just turn into a creature. And then like and then they're like, and they get really upset by it. And then I feel guilty, but then I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm like,
it's like you pushed
me to this point.
It's like
tried calm. But even if I'm calm, I've noticed that because kids pick up on the energy that you're giving, even if you're like, I promise you, if you just do this one thing, like you can calmly say it, but they can feel the rage underneath. I've definitely said to my son before, like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just asking you to pick up your clothes off the floor. And he's like, you're totally yelling at me. I'm like,
yes. My sister gets, they'll say that she's being mean when she's not. Yep. And my mother was mean. And so like my sister will be like, you don't know what mean is. Like, this is, it's just, but I'm glad they don't know, to be honest, it's yeah.
It was
So it's funny
mean, and
to
it was
hear.
like twisted too. It was like, yeah.
No.
My mom's just, I mean, she's calm, she's chilled out now, but like I think being a young mom and being under a lot of pressure, and I mean really young, you know, because you had babies younger 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So not to excuse it, I think that played a part, but she's also like extremely intolerant. I mean, extremely. So like she was someone that if she said, did you dust today? Yes, you better have. It was like a weird, you know what I mean? You're like, but
Mhm.
you asked, and I said, yeah, and that's you know what I mean? Like, just really, really intolerant. She's nicer now, but you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I feel like post-menopause, they turn into these angels, and you're like, you used to
Yeah.
scream at us, and they're like, I don't think you're remembering that correctly. You're like, what? Who
it's
are
so
you?
frustrating. I'm like, do you want to talk to my therapist? Like, or do you want to pay me back all the money that I spent in therapy? Like, could you? And she's like, one time she said, I think I was kind of hard on you kids sometimes. I was like, I was appreciative that I got that, but I thought, boy, oh boy, you know. But I think her mom did it to her, you know, like my sister and I talk a lot about it. So I hope we have more awareness. I think they just are lacking that. That's why you get oh, I don't think I did that. Like when we remind my mom of stuff, she's surprised. And I'm like, you know, it's just lack of, yeah.
She's taken that memory is gone as soon as it happened.
Yep. I'm still
feel
pissed off about it.
I
but,
know, me
yeah.
too. Like it has a lasting impression, everybody. I feel like it speaks a lot to this like female rage. And I feel like it's funny because we were talking about Mercury in retrograde. Can't speak.
It's
And
Mercury and Gatorade.
It's
Sorry.
Gatorade. Yeah.
Gatorade. Ice
Thank
blue
you, Jermaine.
flavor.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like I remember thinking this when I was younger, that like PMS was always a thing that people would make fun of, or they'd be like, oh, well, you're PMSing because you're such a bitch. And like, oh, we can never have a female president because like she's going to blow up the world. And I'm like, yeah. So we got Donald Trump instead because, you know, he's very well behaved.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I always said that I felt like PMSing and raging or getting really angry right before your period is because you've spent the entire month living as a woman and like being nice and being accommodating and and then you feel so shitty and like you start getting so drained as you're about to enter that part of your cycle that you're like, I just don't give a fuck anymore. Like I always felt like, I'm like, it's not that we get angrier around this time. It's that we are just tired of it now.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it's like when you're uncomfortable and in pain, it's like you just can't be nice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're done.
And we're so expected to be nice, but anyone with a mother, I mean, Jermaine, I mean, like anyone with a mom.
I'm being very quiet right now.
Yeah, I know.
Because to be honest, I've actually never. I like out of all the females in my life, I never looked at any of them and said, "Oh, you're very angry right now. Must be blah blah blah."
Mm-hmm.
I just heard it's a thing, and usually my female friends like, "Oh, you know, it's that time," and yeah, and I just I'm patient already, so it's just like, all right, you know, if I say something to annoy you and you go off, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very moody as well. Not that I'm comparing it, just so you know, but
well, it's funny because guys are moody, and I think a lot of times when a guy says it, it's a way of being like, it's not me, it must be you. You know, and I'm lucky. My husband doesn't do that. Like he knows if I'm mad, there's a reason, and it's not hormones, even though that can be a reason. But yeah, he also grew up with all sisters, so I think that helped.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was the only boy except for his dad, and there's 4 other women in the house, so he was more sensitive to it, and he wouldn't, like, if I was upset, it wasn't because it was that time of month. So it's nice that you don't do that, because that'll really piss off a woman. It's like such a way to not validate.
Right? Yeah, no, obviously I've done something to annoy you. It's something I did, and
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, and I've never talked about it with my mom. Like I never knew when she was going through something. But yeah, so now I'm going to be quiet again.
My son knows everything about it. I'm like, you're gonna grow up educated about this. You're gonna understand what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's
Like,
good though. Yeah, no, because I remember
I mean, I should have a little bit more boundaries, but
well, no, I think it's good. I think it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
I had I went to school with someone who had a really bad time during that time, and it's like debilitating. Like, and I just never knew. I never knew it can get so bad, and I still don't know all the ins and outs of what you go through. So I commend you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
We'll take it.
mine was so bad I had a hysterectomy.
Oh wow.
So now everyone knows that. But you know what? It's funny because I always felt, I mean, I know I'm a woman, but I always felt comfortable talking about it. It's funny though, with guys, I see mixed things. Like my husband, totally unfazed. Sometimes it'll come up and a guy, he'll get this look on his face and I'm like, really? At this point? Like
I think I just got that look because I just saw something where it was like the person, what was I watching? But they had a forced one. Oh, I know what. Yeah, and their reaction to it was very negative. So it was like I never know, how certain women are with that, because some are very like it's a very bad experience. They don't want to talk about it with anyone. They feel like less of a woman because of it. So yeah, I just never know with that topic, like how to approach it.
It does affect everyone differently. I think more emotionally and less physically. Like I mean, you do have physical things, but it was a great day. I loved it. And it's been great ever since.
Good.
I love that.
It felt empowering to go, you know what? This has made me uncomfortable since I was young. Like, and I don't mean a little uncomfortable, like life controlling. And it was like, I'm taking control now here.
Yeah.
But your body does go like, what did you do? And I think that happens with any surgery. Your body's like, needs time to adjust because you did do something major to it. But it can be, there's mixed things, but I always tell people you don't have to suffer.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for talking about
yes,
that.
Thank you.
Oh,
really
God, sure.
it. Yeah, I think it's important to hear all like that perspective, because it's different for everybody. Everybody's got a different relationship with their body. Everyone's got a different history with their body, and some people's, like most of our bodies, they're coming with a lot of issues,
Yes, I had my mentor actually told me that one of the reasons I had such horrible problems was because in a past life I had one child after another in a short span of time.
Oh my God.
So like they said I had like nine pregnancies in 3 years. Which I think, at first I'm like, how's that possible? But I think what happened is that they didn't all come to fruition. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was miscarriages and just always being pregnant or trying to get pregnant. And that was crazy. I'm like, wow, that's can really like affect you, like, and I noticed too, boy, I'm segueing here on this.
No,
but,
are you kidding? Yeah.
I love swimming. But I've always been really afraid of shipwrecks. And I had a friend, I didn't ask her, it just came up on her own. She's like, are you afraid of water? And I said, no. And she said, there's something in the water. It's like you drowned on a shipwreck and it makes you nervous. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah. So anyway, it's past lives do kind of stick on you.
They really do. I love that we're segueing into that. I mean, I know people in my life who've had those experiences and then have had it sort of confirmed in past life readings. I've had I know that I've known for a long time. I think I've said this like when I was younger, I remember thinking like, God, it sucks having red hair. But I also had this thought, and I was very young. I didn't even know that this was a thing, but I was like, I feel like in my last life, I wanted to be a redhead in this life. Like
Oh,
I could feel this sort of essence that was like, I'm going to have red hair this time around. Like it was that kind of a weird, but I knew that the person before who I was before, and I was like under high school age. I remember being like,
yeah.
whoever I was before was like, "Ooh, let's get some red up in here," but like didn't think it through. Like didn't think through. But like,
Oh,
yeah.
it makes you awesome though. I think it gives you such character. Like redheads have to fight, kind of, and it
Yeah.
just, I mean, not that it's fun, of course, but it does make you who you are and
Absolutely.
makes you awesome. It's
Yeah.
funny because I have, in some meditations I do, I have a place that I go, and it was shown to me early on. So I always sort of go there to see my guides, or there's a waterfall. And so I cleanse myself sometimes.
Mm.
And one of my higher selves swims in the water, and she looks like me, but with red hair.
Ah.
Yeah. And I always thought that was so on purpose. Like it was showing something about her personality, that was maybe part of my being.
Yeah.
But I loved it when I saw her and she was swimming, and I was like, oh, that's me. And then there's this long red hair, and I was like, oh, and she's a badass too.
That's funny because I've seen versions of myself with long blonde hair.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's interesting.
yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
seen versions of Jermaine as well.
Really?
Well, I mean, I
Oh,
trained to do Akashic Records readings, and Jermaine was thankfully one of my first guinea pigs. He allowed
was
me to kind of
awesome.
dig in, and it was really cool. Like it was really interesting to experience other people's I mean, it's all kind of funny actually. And I wanted to ask you about this. I don't know if there's been a lot, I've been talking to a lot of people or hearing a lot of things about like number one, grid work. And
Mhm.
Andye Murphy, who was on here before, she was also talking about how like the Akashic Records is the grid. And that kind of like how it's organized and basically that it's basically that record of like everything that's ever existed for your soul and everything, and kind of like how accessing that affects the grid for everyone else. And then I had a download a couple of days ago that had to do with that. And it kind of like went into like what we are. And we're just like a concentration of pathways that physicalized. It's weird. And I'm like, I'm sure this isn't the first, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm the first one to think of this. I'm the first one to come up with this. And my guides are like, and by the way, you're not the first one to come up with this. Like they've been starting to add that anytime I download something. They're like, by the way, you're not the first. I'm like, okay.
I know, I get excited too, and they'll tell me something I didn't know, and then usually what happens is I'll Google it,
Yeah.
and it's already been written about. It's still cool though, because I'm like, you can confirm it, sort of,
Yeah.
I still like though they make things unique, like they'll share information with us, but they make it to make sense to you.
Mhm.
So I think that's where it's unique. You know what I mean? That's why when people in the spiritual community get this is this way, this is that way, I'm like, no. That's your understanding or definition of something that's been shown to someone else that's similar, but they're showing it differently. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. They're coming at it from a different place of experience.
Yeah.
So like if your reference is I feel like everything that's in our subconscious is like everything we've ever seen, everything we've ever like experienced throughout our lifetime, whether we remember it or not. And we've been exposed to so much. it's like that's what they use to communicate with us. That's like the typewriter. That's like
Yep.
the alphabet. So they'll
Yes.
use those bits and pieces to kind of get your attention on it. And they even reference, I mean, I don't know, like, and I'm sure you experience this too. They'll reference an experience that you've had that has to do with what you're, maybe if you're reading for someone else, like, oh, remember that time you did this and felt this, that's what they're going through.
Absolutely. Well, it wouldn't make sense if they're showing you something that only that person would reference. That's where the reading would fall apart. You know what I mean? So it's even like, I've been usually at night, I have a glass or two of wine, and I've done that for a long time. And I'm trying to have more days of having nothing to drink it to like let my body recover between drinking. And I noticed that, of course, as it would, my gifts have gotten like they kicked up a little bit, you know, because there's not a glass of Pinot floating around in my system. And I noticed that hold on one second. I noticed that I was seeing more things. Like we've talked about previously, you know, like I sort of see things upon waking or sleeping, and it was happening more. And when I would ask them what these things were, they'd give me different names, but I'm like, they're giving them to me because it makes sense to me. If someone else was seeing them, they might reference with a whole other what this is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, and for example, the one, my husband and I have our home, but I don't know if I said this last time, we have an apartment at where our store is, because it's about an hour and a half away.
Okay.
That has a vortex in it, and it's on like where there was wars and some nasty energy. Yeah. And so this is where I've been seeing things. And the one night I saw something, and I asked in the morning, and they said, what, you saw a monster? And I said, why do you guys call it a monster? Why aren't you just saying entity? And they said, because you'll understand that we mean something slightly different. So it's like, I wonder what they would have said to like you, Jermaine, or you, Jen, like what would they have called that? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like they use something. Yeah. That's why when people say, oh, I heard a guy the other day that was a psychic medium, I do look up to him. He said there wasn't monsters. And I thought, well, that depends on your definition. Yeah. So for him, maybe there's not, because the definition his guides use or description is different. Yeah. But for me, they're like, well, Ryan, growing up a certain way, if we say monster, she'll sort of get it. Yeah. You know,
I think it's so I think it's so great that people, I hope people take that in and understand it, because I also feel like a lot of people might get, and I know this happens for me, like I get downloads that are very specific to what I'm experiencing and what I'm going through. And if I can share some of that, but it's like, I've definitely seen other people like on Instagram or something, like they will give like their downloads or information, and they'll kind of, and I used to do this, they'll kind of speak about it generally, like you must do this in order to this. And sometimes I'll be able to read those now, and I'm like, that was just meant for you, bro. Like that's not for you to share with everybody. So like anyone who's reading these quotes or anything, or even when people are talking about what downloads they've received, just to keep in mind that there's a context around that download that person might not be expressing, and that, you know, that download could have just been just for them, you know, like it was never meant to be shared with anybody. Sometimes I started to just kind of like check in, is this like for everybody? And sometimes it's really not, it's just for me and like what I'm kind of working on in that moment.
Well, you're right about that. And I noticed that with, there's some tarot readers that I follow on YouTube, you know, when they'll do like, this is for the month of July, or this is for Pisces or whatever. And I go with the ones that resonate, because I really do think there's that word, resonate. You know, I'm like, okay, like this, you know, I'll listen to one reader and I'm like, I think they're getting good information, but it doesn't resonate with me. So then I'll find someone else. I'm like, boy, every time I listen to these are right. And I really think you are meant to find the person that it's making sense to. And when it doesn't make sense to you, you don't need to say, oh, they're a bad tarot reader. Because I notice on the YouTube comments, someone will give it a thumbs down. They'll be like, this was a shit reading. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Not necessarily. It just, maybe it was only for like 200,000 of you,
Mhm.
not 200 million. You know what I mean? It's so that's
it's like
people,
Yelp. It's like people give like 1 star because like French fry was undercooked, and you're like,
yeah, it's
that
so,
wouldn't bother me. It's so subjective.
Yeah.
oh my God. That's, I read Yelp for fun when I'm bored, like just to see the crazy shit that people complain, like it's amazing. You know what it's done? It's given everyone a voice, and maybe not everyone always needs to be a journalist for food. I don't know, you know,
I
it's
know not everyone's a food critic. Has to be an actual food critic.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's, I mean, it can be helpful. It has helped me stay away from really shitty places. Like if everyone's giving it 1 star, everyone got food poisoning,
Yeah.
and you know, good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know. But you're right. Like someone will be like, oh, you know, my steak was medium and not medium rare. And I'm like, those are rich people problems.
I know.
Rich people problems,
Rich people
man.
problems. I know. Would that bother? And for the listeners, Yelp is probably a great place to practice your discernment. You know,
Yes.
reading those reviews and being like, does this feel right to me? Does this feel like I should be paying attention to this particular review or not? Like, is that
Yes.
going to affect
Yeah.
me? Because everything is so subjective. Everything is so individual.
It is. It is. Even with people that we help, you know, I take no offense if someone's like, oh, that wasn't helpful. It's like, okay, I might not be the person. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's okay. You know, it's, people are so sensitive now, and I don't know, want to cancel everybody. And it's like, just find your people. You don't gotta, it's like I said to you guys last time, like you don't have to stop and tell everyone you think this person sucks.
Yeah.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like you can think it,
Yeah.
or like tell your partner or your friend like that they suck, but you don't have to be like, I'm taking out a page in the New York Times and tell everyone that you suck for something that's not really important. I mean, I'm not talking about like making major change and, you know, stuff like that. I'm talking about like, you don't like your food, or you didn't like their interview, or things like that, you know?
Yeah. That's true. Even though I am guilty of giving a 1 star on Yelp, but I don't like. There's a comedian, Al Madrigal. Have you heard of
Oh,
him?
no, I don't think so.
Very funny guy. He was in Amy Schumer's movie, with that she did with Goldie Hawn.
I love that movie.
He was
I
the
know.
guy where she went for help, and he was like, I guess he was at, what do you call those? The international.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I know who
he
you're
was
talking about. Yep.
he was that guy. I was like, oh, like I just
Oh, yeah.
started yesterday. But
Yeah.
he does this thing in one of his comedy specials where he talks about people that leave like the 5-paragraph Yelp reviews. And so like whenever I get pissed and I was like, okay, I'm about to do Al Madrigal, what he hates, and I'm gonna keep it down to 2 paragraphs, 2 short paragraphs. But and I can't even remember like who made me so mad that I had to do that. I don't do it often though, but I just
Yeah.
I have to admit, I love reading the Yelp reviews,
Yes.
finding ones that resonate with me, and like, yes, I will not choose this place because I hate that as well. But
Yes. Well, and
Yeah.
it can give people, I will say, like, bad business practices. I think that is important when someone says, like, hey, this place is doing this and it's scamming, and or you know what I mean? Like they're mistreating customers, or, you know, they're not being nice to minorities and things like that. Like I do think that that's, you want to know, so you don't give those kind of people your business, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely an important like feature. Like people
Mhm.
need to be able to share that information with one another.
Yeah.
Speaking of reviews, leave us a review, everybody.
Yeah. 5-star.
An Apple Podcast. No, but I mean, it's like I feel like people are coming out of quarantine and everything more sensitive than ever,
Mhm.
because they've had a chance to kind of be in that bubble and only having to deal with that bubble for so long and really not having to kind of extend out into the world. And now I don't know why I found, of course, like rabbit hole. I found a website, or it was like an Instagram handle of like passenger like meltdowns on airplanes and stuff.
Passenger
Oh, is it?
shaming.
Yes, I watched that too. I follow them too.
Yes.
Her.
My
Love
God.
it.
I'm like, and I'm supposed to fly. I'm flying down to Florida in like end of June. And I'm like, oh God, like what am I gonna have to deal with? I'm like, it's just gonna be
It is a weird,
a little
like
nervous.
I see a mix of things because my husband and I do own a clothing store. I see, like, it seems like a lot of people have been very happy. They seem happy to be out and about. Recently we don't have to wear masks if you're vaccinated, and like that feels freeing and what have you. Then I see anger. You know what I mean? I've had a few people bring up politics, which we do not discuss politics in our business anyway. Or with people I don't know.
Yeah.
Or even people I do know, I don't want to talk about it with usually. But I see people that are still angry and I don't understand on what. And with the airplane thing, I think now here you are, you get to get in a plane, which in itself is a miracle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's going to fly you easily to a place that would take 2 to 3 days in a car. And like the most annoying thing is they pack you in like cattle. You don't get drinks anymore. Food. But it's like, it's really, it can be unpleasant, but it's not like the worst thing ever. And like seeing people punch people and scream at them. And then it's just, I'm like always amazed. I'm like, is this the worst thing all day? Like you're mad you have to wear a mask, or you're mad, I don't know. I really get, it's amazing that people are like, I'm like, what are you angry at?
Yeah, like I feel like there's so much anger that people are now so what's the word? Like they feel very comfortable allowing their anger out and spilling out onto everybody around them.
Yeah.
And it's like, or very not entitled. I'm not sure of the word, but it's like, it's interesting, kind of like coming back to that anger thing. It's like, we're pretty self-aware people who know that, we want to not control our emotions, but we want to be able to kind of regulate our emotions and do it consciously and be aware of like the people around us and stuff. But people coming out of this thing, I mean, and I don't read the news a lot, or I don't watch the news for sure, because that's just like too much at me. But if I read the news, like I think I just went on some random and I saw like everyone's like, oh, gun sales are up. It's like, well, why do you have to tell everybody? Like, so it's like now that's like, it's inciting more fear and more like anger.
Yes.
And people are just gonna, it's like, oh, so is America going back to this just place of like unfettered anger? Like you can just do whatever you want. This is freedom. Like we can do whatever we want. We can hate whoever we want. Like it's just really upsetting to see the bottom just getting deeper. Like people really falling into this hole. It's like, didn't you come out like wanting to be better instead of like being more angry? Like, I don't know. It's scared to go out into the world now.
I know, it is weird. It's like I know, I understand that things weren't great, and I hope I have an even better understanding recently that things are way worse than I realized for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. I sometimes feel like we're sliding backwards more. And I'm like, wait, what? At this point, like, come on, it's 2021. Like, are we really talking about abortion, like and like voter rights getting suppressed? It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, we're so, I don't know. It's been disappointing. Like my guides do not like me to watch the news, and I don't listen. And I do a little bit to try to, well, because I'm nosy, to be honest.
Yeah. Same.
I mean, I was going to say to educate myself, but it's pure nosy.
I want to know it before other people tell me. Yeah.
That's right. I feel though I have to limit it because I notice it does affect my vibration, and I get really upset with people. I'm really disappointed with people, and I'm like, boy,
Yeah.
I thought we were better, and we're not. We're dicks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're just
We
dicks.
really are.
You know, and it's like people are still. I had a woman, and I know she won't listen to this. She doesn't know I'm a medium. I had a woman that came in the store. She comes in every year to buy stuff, and she was complaining about our governor. And I thought, boy, we're coming out of this at this point. Like, I don't agree with everything, and I also don't disagree with a lot of the decisions that were made. But she just was like, it was like March of 2020 all over again, and it was just starting. And I thought, she's just going around wanting to just keep picking at this wound, you know what I mean? And I finally said to her, I said, I wouldn't want to be her. Can you imagine having to have millions of people's lives in your hand, and you don't really know the right thing to do, and you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't? She just stared at me, and I thought, oh, you haven't been met with any other resistance to what you're saying. And I said to her, you know what, you got to feel bad for her, to be honest, to be in that position. And she just was speechless. And then she's like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, nothing, I guess, just be happy you're alive and keep on trying. And I said to my husband Jim, I said, I just don't want to get in these conversations like, why I don't know. It's like, I notice with people, it can't be both. You can't say, and whether this is my governor or the president or whoever, it's either you're all against or you're all for. And it's like, can't you just say, I'm not happy with some of the decisions that were made. They didn't make sense. And other things I do understand. That balance feels really out of whack with every topic.
Yeah.
Even with spirituality, I noticed.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's all one or the other. So even this community has been affected by this extremism.
Absolutely.
I don't like it. It's why I only talk to you two and like 3 other people about stuff, because I'm like, I don't want to. Nope, no thanks.
Right.
I don't want to get into it.
No, like I think even saying like, oh yeah, I've been vaccinated. Like, should I be more sensitive about telling people that? Or like, I know that everyone's got different. Yeah. I mean, I think we just create our bubble and we just make it bigger.
Yes, exactly. Well, you're right. Jen and I, Jermaine, had talked about being vaccinated. I was messaging her, because I finally said something on my on my Instagram, and I had been avoiding it just because I try to not get into certain things. It's not that I'm hiding about it. I don't know. You ever feel like you just don't want to have to be on the defense?
Yeah.
But finally, I thought, you know what? I'm tired of what I'm seeing. I saw a lot of people not getting vaccinated because other spiritual people are telling them not to. What was pissing me off, though, is I should say I had an idea. I'm like, this is an opinion, though. It's a theory. I don't see anyone saying, I got to download from my guides. I talk to my guides. Yeah. This is what they're recommending for me. I would have had so much respect had that been what I was hearing. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to say something. I got so many messages privately from people that said, oh my God, thank you so much. I was vaccinated and I didn't want to say anything, or this psychic said this and I wasn't sure what to do. So thank you. And anyway, that's finally what I did.
That's good. Yeah. Like, and I'm so happy to hear you say that, because it's like any spiritual person who's telling you what to do, you shouldn't be. And I'm telling you what to do by not listening to them. So to say myself, but it's like you can't recommend personal choices to other people. I mean, you can get information where you then decide for yourself, but it's like my decisions were very personal. And I did sort of talk a little bit to people who had checked in with their guides. I talked to Jennifer also. I think she had mentioned the same thing. Jennifer Jean, woohoo, shout out. Yeah, she's gonna come on the show too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've got to get in touch with her. She's awesome. But like, you know, I had also heard like a spirit guide who I follow basically be like, it's okay, like a couple of months ago. And I was like, okay, now I know it's okay.
Mhm.
And, you know, I guess people outside the spiritual world, it's like, I can only imagine, just because of my awareness of how people see us, what their reaction would be to being like, oh, you asked your guides. Okay. You know, but it's like, yeah, that's my system of checking, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not failed me, you know,
Yeah.
like for many
No.
years. So
No.
respect.
Respect
But-
the guy.
right? Yeah.
Well,
Like
it's go. I'm
oh
sorry.
no, no,
Jermaine.
please. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I didn't ask my guides for a long time, and I was thinking about that today. I thought, wonder why I didn't check in sooner. I just sort of was like, I'm waiting. I feel uncomfortable. I'm waiting, and I wasn't uncomfortable because I thought they were gonna chip me or anything. I was just like, I'm not a big. I won't even take Tylenol if I don't have to. Like, I'm just, you know, I don't know. I just tend to like suffer and not, you know, I don't know why. But anyway, it
Because you
was
want to
fun.
feel what your body's doing.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm nosy. Again,
Yeah.
I want to see, let's see what happens here with this
Yeah.
pain, you know?
Yeah.
I finally did though, and I was surprised by their answer when they said it's okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to ask you again 10 times. And then I'm also going to shuffle my tarot cards and see what that says. And you know what's funny? They kept giving me the Ace of Pentacles every time. And then the other day was finally my 2 weeks after my second shot. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to wear a mask at work. So I just said to my guides, please give me one card saying if this is okay to finally take my mask off. Ace of Pentacles.
No way.
Yep. And I was like, okay. But yeah, that's why I told people, like, you know, check in with yourself. Don't just listen. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to these people that are like having their theory filled day. You know, it's like, you know, I asked my guides, and I, like you, I trust them.
Yeah.
They would never put me in a position to be like hurt. You know, I had people that said, oh, I was told that my gifts will go away. And I was like,
What?
no, I thought, oh, that's terrible.
That's
you know,
crazy.
I understand it though. I understand the concern because I questioned it. You know, like I don't want anything to affect me. But anyway, Jermaine, what were you gonna say, honey?
No, I was just gonna say. Well, first, I think my guides are so used to me not knowing how to talk to them or even think about asking them, because I just get messages.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning, I was really against being vaccinated. Just, you know, being part of the Black community and just having that fear of what has gone on in the past. It was like really strong. Like,
yes,
even when I talked about it to other people, you know, of color, maybe they're not Black, but for them to say like, but why? It's like, I would get offended. Like, what do you mean why? Like that thing that happened went on for like 40 years.
yes.
So it's obvious why someone in the Black community would not want to go get this vaccine. And then at some point it just turned for me, and it's like, okay, I really do want to see my friends and my family. And it just felt right for me to go ahead and get it done, and also to make sure that my friends and family are getting it done. So, and I know Jen has said to me, with some people, it's like, oh, the whole vaccination thing is kind of sensitive. And I'm glad she has, because I'm just very much like, hey, if you don't want to get it, that's your thing.
Yeah.
My thing is I wanted to get it. And from my understanding, if we both have it and you're not vaccinated, it's going to be worse for you. And that's the decision you made.
Yes.
I'm good with it. So yeah, for sure. Definitely for me, I was not on board automatically.
No. And you know, that's okay too. I wasn't, and I think it's okay to be cautious. And I noticed a lot of people, it was that extremism again. Oh my God, I'm not getting it. Or, oh my God, you're an idiot for not getting it. I thought, no, wait a second. Why is it got to be one or the other? Why can't you say, you know, it's very new. I'm going to wait a while to see how it goes. You know, like, and people, my sister has gotten in arguments, and she is very allergic to things. So that's why she has decided to wait, you know, like, and I mean, very allergic. And it's like, people look at her like she has two heads. And it's like, wait, why can't, she's not saying to you, what are you, nuts for getting it? Like, just, why can't we all do what makes us feel okay? It's like, it's
Yeah.
almost like, I think people take it so personal, and they've done this with politics and with this vaccine. It's such a trigger. It's so personal. And it's like, it's not the politics. It's not the vaccine. What is it? And I don't know the answer. I really want one of you need to tell me, like, what is really triggering everybody all the time?
I know what it is.
Tell me. Oh my God. Tell me.
I mean,
It's their own wounding that they're projecting on other people. They're just not dealing with their emotion. They're not dealing with their own wounding. And almost even going back to the woman who you were talking to at the store, you know, like going around this at the fundamental level is how she used to connect. And it's the only way she can really connect with people is by like spewing bullshit. I mean, I'm being very judgmental with that, but I mean, people can say that I spew bullshit too, but like you know, at some level, it's just a matter of the fact that like, you know, we've all experienced a sense of loneliness. And for those of us who are brave enough to face the loneliness and really go into the shadow and really kind of figure out what the source of our behaviors are and kind of taking responsibility for it. These people haven't done that. And they've also been led externally for so long. And some people just aren't built to go inside. Some people, that's just never going to be their intention. They must see outside structures telling them what to do, what to think, what to believe, because they can't trust themselves. We've never been encouraged to trust ourselves. I mean, over like thousands of years, we've had to trust somebody else. We've had to read it in a book. We've had to go to church. We've had to, you know, go to school. We have to, unless we have a PhD, and then we have the final say on like what is truth and what is fact and what is like, you know, I don't know.
You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that, but I think you're right. I think that because she seemed on a mission to bring it up. And it's like, it is probably a way, like, it's like when you bitch with your girlfriend, it's fun.
Exactly.
You know, so it absolutely, thank you, because it was driving me nuts. Like, but I think you're right. I think it's sort of that simple and that difficult. You know,
I mean, it's like, and also like family members. So it's like and Jermaine and I, we kind of talked about this a little bit too. I'm the weirdo in the family. I'm the person that's on the level that's like, can we talk about deep, serious stuff? Like, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. And like, my family is not that way at all. So it's like, if I'm going to talk on the phone with, sorry, Jacqueline, she's not listening. It's my sister, but whatever. Even if she does happen to listen to, Jacqueline and I are very, we just don't talk about this. We operate on a completely different frequency. But I know what frequency she operates at. And for her, she can't go deep. It's too painful for her. So, and I know that about her. So I let her kind of like, oh, and then I had to do this. And then I had to go here. And then I'm like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. But then I don't have as much, I can only really talk when I have the capacity to listen, which is bad because I talk a lot. So I'm always like, but it's like I need to be the listener, I think. But I think for her, that's the way I think that's the way she connects. So and it has to be on a surface level, because any deeper than that is just, it's like too much. And I'm too much for a lot of people. And I understand that I'm not too much because I'm just inherently too much, but I understand that for a lot of people, I'm too much because I'm just throwing stuff on them that they probably can't, they don't want to see yet, or they don't, you know.
Yeah, I
like
get that though, because I think you do, like, when you almost know who you can talk with. What I'm saying it wrong. You know who you can have certain discussions with.
Yeah.
It's that Gatorade thing that's going on. I messed up my word. But you do, like, my sister can talk to, I mean, she's my best friend, and like, we talk about anything and everything. And every time I get a phone with her, because we talk every day, my husband will say, did you two figure everything out? And I'm like, yes, we did. Yes, we did. But then, you know, like my mom, there's certain things, you know, I just don't, and certain family members, and even certain friends, Like they don't, and it's okay when you know it, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like you just, if you don't expect it,
Yeah.
lower
And
your expectations
lower your
and you'll be fine. No, I'm kidding.
No, I love it. I was gonna say an ad, but not your frequency.
That's right. I always
Legit.
think of that
Yeah.
skit from remember that skit from SNL where it would say lowered expectations.
Love it.
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, our expectations are there because of like the way we project, and we're only projecting when we can't accept a certain part of ourselves. And all of us are like this. I mean, as long as I don't think we're gonna evolve. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I don't feel like we're gonna evolve to a point where our subconscious goes away. I feel like that's where we're headed, but I feel like for us, we're like deliberately going into it and trying to clear it out or just get an awareness. I mean, not like digging into it, but it's like just getting an awareness of like, okay, where's this coming from? Like, why is this happening? But I don't think that we're going to be eliminating our subconscious anytime soon. So while we're there, we're going to be projecting because we just have to. That's just like how we deal with it. It's just that a lot of people are going to be projecting a lot of like their wounded stuff onto others.
Yeah.
I think for sensitive people, we tend to take it in like, oh my God, am I really like that? But it's like, no, I'm just sort of playing this role for people. Like I'm the crazy haired weirdo. Like I know like that's, and I think for so long I was confused because that's what I just thought I was because that's how other people saw me. So I was like, speaking of being self-conscious, like I was just always too aware of how people saw me because I could feel what they were thinking or I could feel their energy. And then I started like getting a little too caught up in how people saw me. I think people are not getting to that point yet because they might not need to. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I know what you're saying. I understand. It is funny the way people see you because I notice I think being sensitive, sometimes I'm different around different people and I don't mean to be. I don't mean fake. I mean, maybe not fully myself. Like my friends that are very close to me, that have known me my whole life, they really know me. But then friends that I have from later, I noticed that when some of them found out what I did and they went and looked at my YouTube videos, I had one friend say, gosh, I was watching this and I'm like, who's this confident girl talking? And I was like, oh, I must not seem like that. You know what I mean? I took no offense.
Yeah.
But I thought they know me from later in life and we were work friends too, So it's like, I thought, boy, I'm probably never really fully Ryan at work. I don't know who the hell I am. You know what I mean? And I thought, oh, so that she thinks this person didn't exist. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I would even say further, whatever reservation you were operating with, she interpreted as a low confidence level, but you're not.
No, I'm not. So but yet I get it started making me think a little more, and I think she has probably seen that part of me because I'm not in. We don't go deep with things, so she doesn't know me really deep, even though we've shared over the last 20 years and what have you. She's seen me in different situations work-wise. I don't know. It was interesting. I thought I didn't. I mean, she knows I can get spicy and I don't put up with anyone's bullshit when it comes to work. But at the same time, she saw me date people before my husband and things. I thought, well, you know what? She did see this one facet of me. And she must see most of that when we've been interacting over the years. Or maybe I'm not that person and I'm still sort of being defined by her from in my 20s. I don't know.
But also remember, she's looking at you through her own very specific lens. Yeah. So whatever she's, whatever you're kind of bringing up for her, it's like everyone is. I feel like I heard this recently. It's like we almost give people too much credit in terms of their understanding of us,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they really don't care. They just care about themselves. Like they're
That's
really
true.
just
It's true.
like they're only, even like they kind of they're not really looking at like, like if I was about to go out, like my husband, I would be like, I'd go to my husband and I'd be like, so how do I look? And he'd be like, no one's looking at you. And which was sweet. So sweet, right?
Yeah.
I'm so many people are probably like,
I know.
I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't bother me. Like this is just who he is. He's a very like nuts and bolts, very earth Capricorn-y kind of a guy. And he's like, they're looking at your hair. They're not noticing all the little things that you're like, oh, but this is like this and this is like this. He's like,
Yeah.
they're just looking at like what they see first, which is like your hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like that's how
Well, thank you. No, because I actually heard someone else say that.
Yeah.
With they were going through something with their husband, and it was on TV. I don't know I forgot who the person was, but their husband said the same thing, like, "Oh, no one's looking at you," and I had the same reaction, like, "Ouch!" Like,
yeah.
but no, you're right. No, they're not
Oh, it
looking
hurt. It was like, fuck you.
but then they are right, because no one's looking at like the I'm trying to think, like one time I changed the shirt just because there was like a wrinkle I didn't feel like ironing out, and it's like, no one's looking at that one wrinkle. Like they're looking at the whole image of what because they only can take so much in at first.
Yeah.
So that's
And most people are only looking at what they want to see anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm thinking of, sorry. Like, let's just, I mean, like, I remember thinking I was walking by my husband's work screen while he was in a meeting, and I didn't want anyone to see me. And I was like, oh, I gotta fix my hair and I gotta like do this, because even if they see me this is like my actual thought process. It's crazy. I was like, even if they see me for like 2 seconds, they're gonna pull some kind of interpretation of like who I am, or they're gonna make a snap judgment. And I was like worried about that snap judgment. And my guides were like, you have no control over that.
Mhm.
Like you have no control. So like, why are you even like, and it's not to say that no one's going to notice you. It's not to say that no one's going to like be like, oh, wow. Or no one's going to be like, what a mess. Like, it's not that they're not going to be saying those things. It's just that like, why does it matter?
Mhm.
Like, why am I thinking about that? I don't know.
Especially
I
when there's
think
nothing
that's
you
a
can do.
human part of us. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I do that. I was raised from my mom, subconsciously, I think, or to be put together. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and so even if I'm dressed casual, I'm put together. Like I don't leave the house without being sort of put together.
Yeah.
And it was a sign of like manners. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so, and some of it too is wanting. I don't want to run into someone when I look like shit, because I'm like, they'll think I always look like shit.
Exactly.
So you do, like, you're a human and you think like, this is how I really look, like, I do that too, because my husband's ex-wife, and I mean this, we're going back to the 90s here, lives in town. I never worried about running into her, I don't care about that. But one time I was having a party and I needed cream cheese, and I was like, shit, I forgot the cream cheese. So I had my hair done, but I had no makeup on. I was in my pajamas. And I'm like, I gotta go. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I ran in, and I'll be damned if I'm going down an aisle and I see the back of her, and I just grabbed the cream cheese and I ran to the front, and I'm like sweating, like, and I couldn't have looked worse. Like I even had on a sweatshirt my grandfather had bought me from a bar that had a bear on it with a bullet going at the bear. I mean, like it was like a hunter's bar. I don't know.
My God.
And I was like, why is this my life today? Like, why? She never did see me though. I don't think.
That's
I
good.
made it out. But I said to myself,
Fucking cream cheese.
Right.
I said to myself that day, I will never leave this goddamn house without makeup. And I never have.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, I literally had like no pants on, And then I was like, I literally worked out in this shirt that I wore for the last 3 days because I was like, let me just make it look like I'm fancy.
Okay.
But this was like, there's nothing you can really do about sorry everyone who's at home. Yeah, there's just 4-day-old curls is not a great situation.
She
because
looks
it's
good.
just-
She does look
She
good. You're crazy. If I didn't,
Yeah.
my hair, I had slept on it damp. And so this side was like, when I was on that phone call with the big phone company, I'm like, I gotta get ready for the podcast, and my hair, this is like way up here. And I know you guys wouldn't care, but it makes me feel nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
me
what I mean?
too.
Like it yeah.
Because you're aware of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I got it sort of. It's okay.
It
I
looks
think I would
good.
never have known.
Yeah.
Oh, it
that
was like
it was doing one of those. I know.
it was yelling over here. It was like
Look at me. Look up here. Look up here. Did you ever see the Three Amigos?
Yeah.
oh my god, yes.
Look up
Yeah.
here. Look up here. Three Amigos, one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyway.
You know, you said something, this is going back to something you had said about the Akashic records
Oh, yeah.
and how, you know, our guides will show us stuff that makes sense to us. Andy teaches something very detailed. And when I teach people the Akashic records, I teach them like, I give them a flavor test of it. I'm like, I'm going to show you how to get in.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you kind of what it's like. If you want to go down this route later or take something more detailed with someone, you can at least say, I sort of understand what it's like. What's cool is that I go in and my guides show me a similar version to what you're seeing. And it's cool because that's how I also know when you're describing it, I'm able to say, okay, they're in, and I can see that they really are receiving. But it's really neat to see how people all see the Akashic records a little different. You know, like, and the type of beings that you meet in there will be different. They'll resonate with you. And so I do want to say that too. Keep in mind that no matter what you're showed or what you're taught from teachers, it'll be really unique to you. You know what I mean? Like all of this, your messages, the information you receive, the downloads, it will still be unique to you. Don't ever think it's wrong. Because I have people that really cling to certainty and to specific details. Like they'll think, well, Ryan, I did what you told me to do, but I didn't see what you saw.
Yeah.
Or I didn't hear the words you heard. And I'm like, oh, no. You know, like,
That's okay.
be free with the information, you know?
There was a period where I wasn't comfortable doing Akashic because I was like, I definitely wasn't seeing like a library, or I would try to use that. And you know, and it's like, I know that I kind of let go of that after a while. And then I would just kind of feel myself being kind of dragged into a story, and it almost felt like a movie. And then there were, even though when I look back at the readings that I've given, while I'm in it, like I feel, it sounds horrible and I probably should, whatever. It's felt like I was making it up. But then when I look back on that record, I'm like, where would I have made that up from? Like, where would that have come from? You know, but it's like, it was just a confidence thing for me. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be seeing? But I mean, I feel like Akashic is so cool because, especially if you're accessing for other people, I'm like super curious about like what things really were, as opposed to what we've been told about history. And when I get to go back into someone's records where like a life comes up from like caveman times, where it's because I have like a horrible reference when it comes to history and stuff. Like I remember being shown like this is Neolithic, being like, and then having the life like talk to me, or having that like being talk to me, and I'm like, whoa, you're not supposed to see me. You know, like, or like have them actually interact with me and like answer questions. And I saw this one being, I won't say who it was for, but like when I was reading somebody, it was like this woman, she was in a Neolithic, like tribal kind of a situation. But the way they described like how the community worked was like one entity. Like they didn't have a sense of individuality. So it's like the consciousness of the time when that comes up, it's so fascinating to me. I'm like, oh, you felt this way because that's just how people felt back then. Because you can learn about history and you can, you can read books and you can read what's been documented by very specific white people, obviously. But it's like, but when you go into the memory of it, you're experiencing the feelings of it, which always like blew my mind.
Yeah, it's very emotional being in those records. Like it's, I mean, about emotions. I notice when I go in and I ask questions, a lot of times it's like what you were struggling with, then how you felt about certain things in that lifetime. Like it's very, I mean, you can ask specifically, was I a man, woman? They'll show you things, but it always comes back to like emotions you were navigating, you know what I mean, in different situations. And then even sometimes I'll have people ask like, what were you struggling with emotionally at that time that now you're still struggling with? It's funny how that stuff comes up. And I do take people into a library, but I let them describe the library. And I notice it's, I'll go in maybe with someone and their library will be like a column that goes straight up really high. And for other people, it goes really wide and vast or long. And when they say, geez, it's really high, I'm like, yeah. And I can see what they're sort of seeing, and I'm like, boy, it's interesting how they want that person to experience. And now does Andye say, does she see that as grids and not a library?
I mean, lately she was talking when I learned Akashic with her, I guess it was like a couple of years ago now. It was kind of part of what because it was done in Egypt, very specific Egyptian tradition. So while the class was structured in a particular way, it's actually since evolved because the records have evolved. And that's she kind of live, I was going to say live streams. She live channels kind of a lot during the class. So she's got like specific guides that she works with, and that's Shisahat and Thoth. So she works with them very specifically because they're associated with the Akashic records. So, we do some Egyptian stuff, but it is a little bit of like, but she's also very like whatever you see type of thing. And I think I felt pressured to see a library, but like, I hate books or like I've got like that sort of weird, but again, it's just my own thing. It's like, I'm like, oh, it's hard for me to read books, and like libraries are like overwhelming. And so I think, and my guides, because Thoth became one of my guides for the Akashic records as well. And there's a lot of him just being like, he's with me, it's the energy that I get from him is more very playful and funny, because I know that I have history in Egypt as a scribe. Like there's a lot of that kind of thing. And of course, all the people in my life have the same, like we all have like the same kind of like things going on. But I think when I started kind of relaxing it myself, I was seeing, I would try to kind of see a book. In the beginning, I was able to see a book. I also noticed that like in the beginning of me learning something, it comes very easily. And then it's only after a period of time, I guess I get time to develop my my distrust of it, that like, then it starts kind of changing. But I think the very first time I did a reading for myself, I could see a book opening and I could see like a very old timey like lion, like an illustrated lion from like, I guess the Middle Ages. It's like kind of like in that weird sort of, and I was able to kind of go through that with that. But with other people, I just will start seeing a scene, and it's like a movie scene in a way. And then the more I speak, it activates it for me.
Yeah.
So it's like I have to keep talking. I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing this and this, and it's only through speech that then more stuff will come. That's what I'm
Ah.
finding. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because that's what I tell people with any of their clairs. I say it's sort of like, when I think maybe I said this last time, but like when a clown pulls out handkerchiefs and it keeps coming and keeps coming,
Yeah.
information's the same way. If you don't give what you get as you get it, a piece can't come behind it and push out. So it is important to get like into that flow and let it keep going. It's only when we stop and we question or we're hesitant or we don't want to say it, you really do kind of stop the flow. Not that you can't recover. And hopefully the longer I do this, I know when I stop myself or when I'm hiccuping, I can recover more quickly. For someone else, when it's me and I really stop the flow, sometimes I just have to walk away because it just gets gridlocked, So it makes sense to me though, as you keep saying it, it has an opportunity to keep channeling through you,
Yeah. It's because I've tried not speaking it and it doesn't work. It's like nothing, and another thing the guides always said, and it's like, you hear the same things over and over, and then you hear it one time and you're like, oh, I get it. And they were like, you're only going to access what you're really ready to access.
Yeah.
But like, it's just gonna, you basically stop the flow. I mean, it's you actually, like, we all have access to it all the time. It's just in this sort of density that we've created these sort of areas to push the flow to the side or just to kind of like not allow it to come through. And I think even me hesitating or feeling like I'm making it up was my block in the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I asked my guides the other day because I noticed one day the information was coming in really easy. And then the next day at night, I was asking them, who knows what, like what hair product I should use or something. I don't know. And it sort of like stopped. And I'm like, I knew the answer too. It was because it was in nighttime and I was tired. I don't know why, but I was like, what's the problem? And I didn't really hear anything. So the next day I said, how much of me blocks the information when it gets blocked? 100%, they said. And I'm like, oh, all right. I was like, not like 80, 87, you know what I mean? No, it's like, nope, it's 100% you. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take that, put it in my pocket and keep on trucking.
Because your body was like shutting this down. I'm closing the laptop. We're cutting the connection. Like we're going to shut it down because the body needs to go to sleep.
Yep. Yeah. And I know better, but I'm like, I'm nosy and I'm like, hoping they say something like, I don't know, something I can clear or fix. And it's like, you're tired or it's the end of the night or we already told you the answer and you're asking it. And, like.
I mean, like when it comes down to it, it's the other thing that they were saying is like, it really is just a matter of asking the questions. Like you can know anything and everything, obviously through your filter, but you can know anything that you want the answer to, and you just have to ask. Like they're so ready to answer questions, but they can't just start giving you stuff unless you're tugging on the cord, to like get more information. And like you said, it is that it does become like that flow.
Yes. And you're 100% right about that. When I'm helping people, they are sitting down waiting to receive information, which you can just sit and be open, right? But a lot of times I'll say, did you ask them anything? And they'll say no. And I'm like, for your sake, you have to start that conversation, especially because you're not fully trusting yet. Maybe you're new to this. You have to sit down and go, I'm going to have a conversation. And I tell everyone that pretend like you're having coffee with your guides and just start talking to them, and you'd be surprised how much of it will start sitting in silence when you're waiting to receive. It's like, well, think of all the stuff they could tell you in that moment. Like you're just, you get in your head going, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? And so you're blocking
Yeah.
because of that. So if you ask a question, I always ask and receive. That's the way I taught. Even though I was taught from people, that was sort of the way I started doing it, that I noticed then I could get more responses, you know, and then it gets the ball rolling, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same with anybody else. It's like, how do you start a conversation? Like you got to start asking, like, even like if you're on a date, from what I've heard, like people being like, you know, so where did you go to school? What did you do? You know, like, it's like, you have to interact, because it is that interaction that creates that energy to access something. It's like, there's got to be some kind of movement.
Yeah, and you're right about, they'll tell us so much, but if you're not meant to know something at the time, they won't tell you. And I teach some of my students that by, if I can't get something for you, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it happens, or the information is limited.
Yeah.
I'll then make them ask once I get them in.
Yeah.
And then, because I always think it's it's a way for me to show them that lesson. You won't always get the answer, and it has nothing to do with your skill set. It sometimes is simply you're not meant to know. And I also want to show them it doesn't make me a bad psychic because I couldn't get it. So I'm going to have you ask.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they're like, for example, if I have them talking to Archangel Michael, and I'll say, okay, now ask X, Y, or Z, whatever they wondered about. They'll say, well, he's shaking his head or holding up his finger or laughing. And I'm like, yeah, why? And they'll say, he says, I'm not ready. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I couldn't get it either. Like, I can't go around what you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they won't even, because I've done that with my friends that are psychic. My guides will be being cryptic or something, and I'll get a hold and go, hey, so would you ask them? And, you know, I'm like, I can just see them like shaking their head, like, you know, we're not going to tell her either. Like, and they don't, or they'll answer the same exact thing. And I'm like,
I love them. I love them, and they drive us crazy, but like, God, we must be driving them so crazy all the time. But it's all so endearing, because you know that relationship that they have with, they're like, oh, bless their hearts. You know, like there's a lot of that kind of like energy, but
yeah, they're very understanding. And because I do have people that think I mean, we joke about it, but they think that they get mad at them or something. I'm like, no, they don't, they're lacking that, you know. But it is funny to think, like, I'll say like, sorry guys, sorry about that, you know, like, sorry, I asked 20 times, you know.
They're like, we already forgot about it.
Yep. Be like, we already knew this was going to happen anyway. And, you know, your Akashic records told us you were going to do this. So
I had a reading the other day with a woman named Lacey Free, and she's on a podcast of Jessa Reads, and Jessa was like recommending if we wanted readings, like to go with her. And it was just so funny because she was really good. Like she really was like accessing stuff that I was like, I literally just said that. She said the word trauma. She's like, your guides just said the word trauma is an extreme word for you. And I was like, I literally just talked about this on my podcast like 3 days ago, that the word trauma just feels too extreme. But it was like, it's just great to get that kind of confirmation from people, like when it's just like, I know it's like all right here and it's like circulating, but it's always nice to hear someone else say it. I'm like, yep. Oh yeah.
Yes.
But but it's like, oh yeah, it is real.
It is. And my guys have gotten where so if I ask them something and early in the morning or later at night, my gifts don't really work very well. So that's when I'll use my cards to validate, because I'm crazy and I want to double, triple check, you know. I noticed they started doing something the last couple months where if I ask a question I've asked previously and I think I'm being tricky, I'm just going to reword it differently. Right?
Yeah.
I get the devil card. and I'm like, they're saying like, you're asking out of fear, you're being fearful. And like, they've been doing it, like they have been really tightening up with me where like, it is every time, like they won't even give me a little bit. They're like, you asked, we discussed this earlier, devil card. Or I'll get the other card, it's the 8 of Swords or 9 of Swords. It's the one where the girl's got her hands like this. Like, it's my anxiety card is what I call it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, it's working though, because I don't ask. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what you're saying is we answered you, we discussed it. Now you're double, triple checking. So I can tell now I'm in this new cycle of learning where they're like, we're going to make you take it the first time and you're going to have to take it and move on, you know.
It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see. It's
love
funny because
that.
sometimes the lessons are tough, as you guys know, like they can really, this doesn't feel tough though. It feels like we're just gently letting you know we're not going to do this anxiety dance with you. You know,
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. You know,
Got the new shoes on. I really want you to twirl me around, you guys.
but I know it's funny too, because I don't fight them. I that's where I feel like I have a little bit of growth on that anyway, is I thought, okay, all right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. It's like,
You
a
know,
light folding.
I know, it's like a light little, and it's so funny because, well, I was also thinking, and I know we're going over time, and I love it, and it's so yummy. But there was one thing that you had mentioned last time when you were talking about that being that you saw, and how like Archangel Michael was like kind of laughing at you, like, well, why did I see it? And he was like, because you're looking for it.
Yes.
That has stuck with me so much lately. And it's coming up a lot. And same even with the vaccine. I'm like, if I'm looking for it to affect me negatively, it will.
Mhm.
And my guides were very clear about that. They're like, well, if you're looking for it, you'll find it. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're looking for something to mess you up, or if you're looking for an experience to be bad, it will be,
Yeah.
like your ability to create and manifest a situation to happen right now is it's so sped up right now that like if you want a lot of pain, keep thinking about it. Keep
You're
focusing
right.
on it.
You're right. They'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it might not look, people think, well, I want $1 million. It's like, it's the vibration that they'll give you, the matching energy. And well, you're right. I've only had one thing bother me. And it was in that apartment. It's since the last time we spoke.
Oh yeah.
And it was the night that my husband stayed back at our house. So I was thinking about it. I was worried about it.
Yeah.
And it showed up. It's like, I'm here.
You were like,
ready to
bring,
party.
bring.
And I thought, okay, I know this. When I woke up, usually what would happen, even though I'm a hypocrite because I would teach people differently, just move on from it. Don't worry about it. But me, rabbit hole. I didn't. I really was like, I know why that happened. And I'm not even going to ask my guides. I'm not going to think more about it. Mm-hmm. And then the next time nothing happened, and nothing's happened since. I was like, your fear or worry will deliver the goods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're right. Like that's
like
where I'm starting to really understand how powerful.
Blinking light in the fog. Like they can see that blinking, like you're like, bling, and it's like they can see that. But if you're like, I'm not even going to put it out there.
Yeah.
They won't see you.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I notice I've even become less fearful. So when I saw these strange things, even though they weren't affecting me, they were just sort of in the room, I noticed there wasn't any fear behind it. And I wasn't worried about it. And I feel like I've gone up a step or entered a new phase where like this lingering fear I had is sort of dissipating, and it feels good. It feels good. Yeah. They'll give you whatever you're putting out, you're right about that.
Yeah. yeah, like if it's, and I'm starting to believe more and more that any of those negative things that we might see, they're really tied to us. They can't,
Mhm.
they can't just randomly access us without some kind of transit connection. Like it's some
Yep.
kind of web, it's like we're in a web, we're in a big web. There's something,
Yeah.
and we all, and this was more like, it's like we all have these kind of reception points within us. And sometimes that vortex will be more like we need more of it, or or it's like very exposed, so they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, there we go, I'll plug my energy right into that. And it's like, but it, when you are sort of like becoming more aware of that stuff, you're like, oh, I don't even have to, because I have all of that ability to shut it down.
Mhm.
It can't come here unless I've invited it. So
Yeah. Your fear is your permission. It's like, it's how, because they have to have permission.
Yeah.
How they get it is tricky though, like, and it's fear is that door. I tell people when you're in fear, which is, it's a human emotion. It's not one we're going to wipe out. I mean,
we need it.
Yeah. But it's really, you're not in alignment with God, with source in that moment, being fearful. So that's how those things can get in. It's like, but once you have the tools, you can recover quickly.
Yes.
Instead of having like this big cloud or whatever following you. It's like, it's just about moving on, recovering. I can't even listen to certain things. Like they get permission from me watching like gross movies or like true crime things that are like where the story's really nasty. I noticed that that's when I would get entities and things in my energy. And I'm like, okay, what it's really doing is it's lowering my vibration because I listened to this horrible story and there's some fear now in my, and it's like, that's why I tell people, don't think you can just get taken over by the devil. Like you're very much in control of this vessel and you're opening the door, but you can also close it, it's, but it is you,
That's
it's
huge.
Like,
like that, even watching that stuff is a subconscious way of giving permission. It's like, and that's, I think, what people need to understand. It's like when we're exposed to all that kind of energy, it's not, we're just kind of giving that power up, and then, it's being taken as like an invitation. It's like if some guy whistles at you on the street and you're like, shut the fuck up, you motherfucker, god damn it. And he's like, oh, I have an opening.
she likes it. She was attracted to it, like, I think we have a chance. Yeah. I think that's what that means.
That's so awesome.
Oh my
I think
God.
we've been
it's so
talking
good
for
to
like
talk
2
to you.
hours.
Have we really? I don't even have a watch.
I don't even know from when we started.
Yay. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm so hoping next time I can use this damn mic and the computer.
Yes. And we're going to bring you back probably in a couple of months.
Thank you. I'd love to. Anytime, I'm happy to join you, and that'll give me time to I don't know, perform an exorcism on my Zoom or whatever it needs to happen.
Zoom, sponsor us.
Well, Ryan, you are awesome. I just want to let you know that you are so awesome.
Thank you. I just love you too. I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll be messaging with you and listen to your podcast. And I will say, Jermaine, that Jen taught me to speak into the like, so you can send a message instead of texting.
That's how we
talk.
talk.
That was magic. Like, because I'm like, I'm like you, Jen. I don't like reading. If it's not a magazine article, I'm like, no. Nope.
Yeah.
So like, even texting, I'm like, if it's a long text, So when she sent me that, I'm like, you mean I can talk in this thing?
It's like mini podcast. It's like mini podcasts. I have a lot of friends who I'm turning into, like, I'm converting every friend I have into voice memos or whatever you want to call it, because I'm like, I mean, this is the best way to communicate right now. I'm like, we're all doing stuff. So like picking up the phone, it's like obsolete, but like now it's like, oh, I can listen to this when I'm like, I've had my little smoke And it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm settled in. Now I get to listen to my own personal podcast. It's just
Exactly.
Well, and you
great.
can hear like someone's laughing or like their
Their
intent
energy.
behind what they're saying. Yeah, where it's
Yeah.
like, if not, you have to have emojis like I was joking, I was laughing.
know.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's nice to just be able to hear someone's
Yeah.
voice and yeah. Thank you
Mwah.
both very
Thank
much.
you.
Love you.
Ah,
Great
Love
love
you
you.
guys.
Love you guys too. I'll
All
talk to you later.
We'll talk to you soon,
Definitely.
okay?
I certainly haven't been shopping for any new shoes. And I certainly haven't been spreading myself around. I still only travel by foot, and by foot it's a slow climb. But I'm good at being uncomfortable, so I can't stop changing all the time. I notice that my opponent is always on the go and won't go slow so's not to focus. And I notice he'll let you ride with any guide as long as they go fast from whence he came. But he's no good at being uncomfortable, so we can't stop staying exactly the same. If there was a better way to go, then it would find me. I can't help it, the road just rolls out behind me. Be kind to me or treating me mean, I'll make the most of it. I'm an extraordinary machine. I seem to you to seek a new disaster every day. You deem me due to clean my view and be at peace and lay. I mean to prove, I mean to move in my own way and say I've been getting along for long before you came into the play. I am the baby of the family, it happens so. Everybody cares and wears the sheep's clothes while they chaperone. Curious, you're looking down your nose at me while you appease. Courteous to try and help, but let me set your mind at ease. If there was a better way to go, then it would find me. I can't help it, the road just rolls out behind me. Be kind to me or treating me mean, I'll make the most of it. I'm an extraordinary machine. Do I sorry you? You need to hurry to my side. It's very kind, but it's to no avail, and I don't want the pain. I promise you everything will be just fine. If there was a better way to go, then it would find me. I can't help it, the road just rolls out behind me. Be kind to me or treating me mean, I'll make the most of it. I'm an extraordinary machine. If there was a better way to go, then it would find me. I can't help it, the road just rolls out behind me. Be kind to me or treating me mean, I'll make the most of it. I'm an extraordinary machine.